Hello, beautiful people. Today I want to talk about self-validation and how this is a crucial activity for you to develop a sense of worth, a healthy sense of worthiness, of feeling that inner power that compounds over time as you self-validate. This is a very simple but very powerful set of practices and principles you can follow. It may sound too simple to give so much power, but it changed my life completely. The sole idea of knowing that I don't need facts, I don't need logic to validate how I feel about any single thing was a complete game changer. It changed my life completely on all different levels. And it's like a positive snowball that keeps increasing over time, that sense of self-value that keeps growing the more I do, the more I entertain this self-validation. And I do it very automatically by now, but it really comes to that compounding inner power, that unwavering sense of self and fulfillment that I wish to you, and that's why I'm sharing this in this video. So let's take it away. Self-validation is especially important in these times where there is so much stimulation coming from the outside, when we have access to our phones, to the internet, and we exchange information and compare data all the time. There is more stimulation that can tell us that we should not feel good about ourselves. And that's why in these times it's really much harder to maintain that really strong, unwavering sense of self, healthy sense of self, and the idea of being worthy. There is this sense of confidence and power that nothing shakes when you kind of live in your bubble of self-validation. So let me give it to you right now. First of all, what self-validation is. What do I see as self-validation? What I've discovered as being self-validation is recognizing and accepting what you think, what you feel, what you perceive, and what you need. Okay? So these things, there might be more things that you need to recognize, but in a nutshell, these are the most important things that you are needing to recognize in your life. So what do I mean by this? A person that has a low sense of self-worth is more tuned in others people's reactions, their moods, their feelings, their opinions. And the person with that low sense of worth, they will be constantly doubting and seeking confirmation on the outside. So maybe you even experience in your life or so an example of such behavior, of constantly needing reassurance, of perceiving what you perceive. Maybe keeping asking, like, did you hear what that person said? Were they rude? Do you also think they were rude? Or do you think also your chicken is undercooked, or something like that? Doubting your basic senses, doubting your basic perceptions, doubting your feelings, doubting the estimate of the situation, your hunches, but also direct sensory feedback that you get through your five senses. But not only we have five senses that, you know, you see, you hear, you taste, you feel things in your body, and they should inform you. They are messages. We were given this gift to use these senses to inform us. beyond this, we have also other senses. We have our intuition. We have something that goes beyond that. We kind of pick up from energy, from people, from how they're behaving, and we might not even have facts. Okay? That's why trusting your senses, the basic senses, but also your intuition, your hunch, your gut feeling about a situation is critical, so that you can transform the information in your mind, as you should, with what you get given from your feedback, and then make up your mind about what to do with that information. So we get given feedback, we get given these things through our senses, through our intuition, through our energy, and we get to choose what is right next thing for us. Do we want to keep engaging with that? Do we feel or think that this is still a good idea to hang out with these people? Do we still want to keep eating this food? Do we still want to engage in that, I don't know, situation that keeps repeating, going to the same work? People who doubt their perception, who doubt their feelings, would constantly override things with their head. But you have to remember that our heads are the most conditioned feature of our being, because we were taught through thoughts, through words, through people telling us what to do and how things should be. But they were their opinions. It was their guidance based on whatever set of beliefs they had, and it was supposed to serve them. Whether it did or not, it doesn't matter. You need to be informed by your own perception that you got given, without checking in with others. The lack of self-validation, what it does to people is to stay and overstay in situations that don't serve them, because of that overriding that I just described. When you keep justifying why you're still doing this work, why you keep going to this office, that maybe people humiliate you, maybe they don't respect your work, maybe you're underpaid, or maybe you stick around in this relationship that you feel like it doesn't work, but you don't have facts, you don't have logic behind the possibility of living. Maybe you're not being treated badly. Maybe everything seems like okay on paper, but there is a feeling that something just doesn't sit. And you can't justify yourself by just having a feeling. You don't validate your feeling, but because of the words, the outside beliefs, the opinions you got given, you keep justifying your overstaying in a situation that you feel is not serving you. This is the main reason why people are becoming unhappy gradually in some situation. This is the same reason why people get sick in their life, because they overstay in situations, in their own behaviors maybe, of constantly repeating the same habits and serving the situation that doesn't serve them, without honoring what they feel like about the situation really, and walking away, or maybe changing the way they think about it, because that also produces a flooding of emotions. Okay, perceptions come from our thoughts and from our beliefs, but we have to honor our emotions before we can make up our mind about what to do. We can make up our mind about, I will keep trying, but now with an informed mind, I'm honoring my emotions. I'm just going to give it one more chance to see if my changed perception will help me stay in this situation. Maybe I can see things differently now that I understand it. So how do you validate yourself? This is the best part. The key to self-validation is 100% recognition of validity of the feedback, of your thoughts, of your perceptions, of your feelings, of your senses. And knowing that later you can change it, but you have to recognize and accept what is going on right now. I'm feeling angry. I have a sense that this person treated me wrong, but I don't know, like the way they said it, it doesn't sound like it, but I just feel it's not right. If you feel it's not right, it's not right. Okay? We have this magnificent way of understanding energy before we can understand facts, before we know everything, because you have to learn some things. Maybe you have to learn about how people might manipulate you, how they gaslight you, and you have to understand this logically. But if you honor your feeling, you will feel it before anyone teaches you that what they did was gaslighting. Okay? If you honor your feelings, you don't have to be confused about the situation, because it's just like 100% right. Okay? There's no discussion. This is how I feel about this, and this is how I feel. And if you need reconfirm, if you're like still fuzzy about what it is, maybe you can still engage in that and see if you feel constantly and consistently the same thing, then this is what it is. Okay? You don't have to keep exposing yourself anymore. You have checked in with yourself. You don't have to check in with others constantly to tell you how the situation looks like, because all you need is your own perception in that situation. People will have their own view, they will have their own opinions, they will have their own preferences, and that's okay. This is perfect, because we're not supposed to have the same ones. That's why you're checking in with others to make sure you understand the situation correctly is futile. They cannot give you a trustworthy reply to your question. It's completely irrelevant what is their perception on the situation. So again, going back on track, how do we do that? When you have a thought of a situation, you need to completely accept this is what you think. No matter if it's true in absolute sense, this is your starting point for any change of behavior, change of action. You have to accept that this is what you're thinking, 100%, and this is your thought. It could be a limiting set of thoughts. It could be based on limiting beliefs that you can work on later, and that's fine. But your feelings, especially your feelings, will give you a perfect sense later if that was a positive statement, thought, or a negative. To validate yourself, you need to honor your feelings no matter what. What is honoring your feelings? Again, is just accepting, is knowing that I'm feeling not right about this, or I'm feeling very happy. This gives me joy, then I want to do more of it. This crowd of people, this group of people always kind of give me a sense that I don't fit in, that I don't belong. In case you haven't watched my video talking about how to interpret your negative emotions, I just want to mention here that one of the things could be happening when you're experiencing a negative emotion. One could be that you've just created the situation through your actions, through your behaviors, and if it's not satisfying, and if you are getting a lot of negative emotions in some sort of situation, then it could be a result of some choices in the past. Maybe you chose this group when you were younger, maybe less mature emotionally, and you kept going. Another thing is that you are interpreting this situation through a limiting set of beliefs. When you experience a negative emotion, this is an indication that you are looking at the situation and perceiving it through a filter of a limiting belief of some sort. And this could be when you look at the situation, when you find yourself, for example, amongst a group of people that maybe don't respect you very well, and you are looking at them, and the underlying filter of looking at this situation is, I'm unworthy of better people being in my life, or I'm undeserving, this is the best I can do. And there is this kind of tension that grows because it's not aligned to your true core self. It's not the voice of your true core self that speaks this. So you kind of separate yourself from your truth. You keep believing something that maybe some other people told you in the past, or maybe you saw some sort of evidence in your life, or some ideas that were put in your mind that you are unworthy, or this is how the relationships look like. And this is not aligned to your core self. It doesn't go along with your truth. Another example of the filter that creates that sort of perception of situation that gives you negative emotions, you produce your own negative emotions, could be that you are experiencing a situation in the workplace and you are getting anxious or frightened or panicky because you don't believe you can cope. There is something inside of you that tells you, I don't know how to do it. I'm like incapable of handling this situation. And again, this isn't true, because you can cope in so many ways. You just believe that you can't. And maybe you are used to trying to control the situation, trying to manipulate people or events, but you can cope from within in so many different ways. So there is a number of limiting beliefs that filter our perception of situations that are misaligned from our core self. And this is when we get negative feelings, to draw us back home, to draw us back to our alignment, to align with the most loving, the most self-empowering, the most trusting belief you can get about the situation. And from then on, you can make up your mind what to do next, but only choose what to do in terms of action, changes in behavior, when you've inspected the premise, the underlying belief that allows you to see the situation through this point of view. You are an awesome, divine human being with full potential to being, doing, and feeling how you want to. And the filters that are going through our mind, there were parts of conditioning that we have to overcome in the evolution to fulfilling that potential. Don't get too hung up on your beliefs and keep repeating what you are used to doing, what you are used to believing, just because you have been doing this. Only when you have made up your mind on what you want to do, it's all about making up your mind. I promise you, there's no deep philosophy about changing your belief. You can move on with your life and stop being stuck in the situations that don't serve you. Now that you understand a little bit more about how you can validate what you think, what you feel, that this is the right starting point for you, but this is your own perception of a situation, You also have to know that you were conditioned a lot, and that all these external stimuli, they keep flashing to us the memory of how we were conditioned. So the important thing in validating yourself is to stop invalidating yourself. This may be very simple and simplistic way of looking at this, and it actually is. You have to understand how you have been invalidating yourself. If you have been constantly comparing yourself with others, and this is so common in the era of internet, when you have your phone constantly with you and you keep looking at those videos and at other people's success stories, they're telling their stories to you about themselves, no matter how true or untrue they are. You compare your tempo, your pace of doing things to others, perhaps. Because we live in the age that is, well, devoid of meaning other than material possessions, material achievements, the myth of productivity and usefulness, utility to others. We keep forgetting that a person's value lays completely in a different realm. But if we keep flashing to ourselves all these information by scrolling and constantly being exposed and constantly comparing ourselves to, then you keep invalidating yourself by doing this. You keep telling to yourself, this person has something I don't have. They're worthy more than I am. Their way of doing things is better than mine. For some reason, this is what you put to your head. But the truth is, there is an infinite amount of ways of achieving the things you want. And the things that you are exposed to as the method, the way, the perfect scenario, the perfect set of circumstances that these people have or did, is just their story. They might not even be understanding that someone could get where they are in a completely different set of scenarios or behaviors. That's why your path is just perfect. Your pace of doing things is just perfect for you. I just want to bring here an analogy that I often give to my clients that struggle with their idea of productivity, that in the world of nature, which is such a great source of information to us, you can observe different animals and how they go about achieving success, right? Living abundant life, perfectly taken care of. And you have maybe a speedy animal like a tiger or something like that. And they're fast, they go for it, right? And this is kind of an idea that we have, that we should like go for it, be aggressive, and like this is the way to be taken care of. Like you go and get it, and you just, But a sloth is equally successful in nature, and they coexist, right? A sloth takes things very slowly. They do things in a very slow pace, and they still achieve everything they are supposed to achieve in their life. They are very well taken care of. Sorry, I'm not gonna be talking in that pace anymore. It just gets in your head, right? But a sloth is well taken care of. It's actually equally successful as the tiger. They survive. They have food. They're living in abundance. They're perfect. They are themselves. They are honoring their pace. They are honoring how they go about doing things. Because they trust this is their way of getting about their life. And they're not trying to force themselves to run faster. They couldn't, even if they wanted to. And you need to honor your own way of doing things. You need to honor your pace. You need to honor your levels of energy. You need to honor what is your truth in expressing yourself, your authenticity, your set of quirks and behaviors, and how you express yourself, how you are. And you will see that the more you validate yourself, the more insight you get in becoming more successful. Because what happens, and what was my experience, it's outwardly, like, it's really so crazy. When you start validating yourself just because, you don't need any facts to confirm you, no logic behind this. You validate 100% what's going on, and that you can actually take action solely based on how you feel, what your instinct tells you. And then you kind of open a gateway inside of you to listening in more to those hunches, because you have opened yourself to listening in instead of listening out. Okay? And then what happens, you will get given more information. And what happened to me, for example, I started receiving a lot of different information. I started receiving downloads, whole downloads of information, stories that I would not have access to. It's what I call intuition. You know, not only you get like these like bizarre things, but you are getting intuition about what to do next. When you honor that, you accept, recognize, and that you may even act just because you felt something, just because you kind of feel this is the right thing, then you've opened the gateway, like I said, to your intuition. Intuition is inner tuition, inner wisdom. There is no real wisdom for you on the outside that can guide you into your own success, like the sloth or whatever, your own success, fulfillment. Only your intuition can guide you there, because you have your own path of achieving what your heart desires. That's why honoring also and validating your needs and desires is so important, because some people really might feel ashamed of what they need or desire, because they keep comparing themselves to others, and they're like, oh, in my environment, it's kind of a bad thing to want to be this famous person, or maybe those needs that I have, those inclinations, they are ashamed by others. So you can validate how you feel just because how you feel it. And I speak all about this in my videos about shadow work, how accepting and embracing the full spectrum of your feelings, your thoughts, your character traits, and your desires is so important for your fulfillment, because this is where lies your treasure. This is where lies your success. By holding all these parts of you in reverence, instead of holding others' guidance in reverence, you are climbing to becoming more of yourself, to becoming more fulfilled. And this is where real success lies in, because you start thriving on your own terms. And this is the only success worth of pursuing. You will never be fulfilled by doing things as other people do and following what other people's desire just because it kind of feels cool, because it's not yours. The path to feeling like you're feeling self-worthy and self-confident and really free in being you comes from you validating all of these things. And when you act on these inclinations, on those desires, on those feelings and hunches and intuition, like you will see more over time that growth of inner power, because it's like you keep investing in yourself, you keep betting on yourself, you keep believing in yourself, you keep honoring yourself, you keep honoring your resources, you keep honoring and validating your need for space, you keep honoring your need for having nurturing relationships, and only those you will choose and invest your time in. You will be uncompromising in giving away of your precious time, energy to anything that doesn't serve you. You can stop pleasing people because you know those sources will not fulfill you as much as your self-fulfillment when you honor and validate yourself. And very quickly you will also see that you feel better because you stop giving power to all other people, to the circumstances, to their opinions, to whatever kind of however they want to behave. You kind of detach yourself healthily from this because you kind of contain everything you need, all the validation from within, and you start feeling so good. There is very little of on the outside that will be able to affect you. You will consistently know that you take care of your own emotions because you validate yourself. You are the master of your moods. It is so important that you validate all of your traits, all of you, and you validate however shameful desires you think you might have. Of course, without hurting others. But what I mean is you give yourself the right to pursue what your heart really wants, what feels like joy, what feels like excitement, what feels like a worthy path of pursuing. And for this, again, invest in your self-worth, invest time and effort, because it will compound. And for this reason, I will link here a whole playlist that you can watch from about self-worth and self-love journey. Thank you for watching today. And I wish you all the best and see you in the next video.